Gossip is the fabric that holds society together. Let me explain. Conversation is a uniquely human phenomenon and the catalyst for the transfer of social information. Language is responsible for a lot of the blessings we have in our lives, from being able to engage in deep discussions to listening to podcasts from people halfway across the world. But there's a deeper, more subtle form of communication, one that's publicly hated but privately enjoyed: gossip. Gossip has, for reasons not entirely bad, developed a negative reputation, often viewed as malicious and destructive. Gossip is basically perceived as speaking ill of others and disrupting social relationships. And with AI voice generation and social media, it has the potential to undermine the fabric of society as a whole, especially when the gossip in question is false or made up. But the original meaning of the term gossip was not derogatory. It simply referred to activities with one's godsips, the close peers akin to godparents. In essence, gossip originally denoted interactions with those one was particularly close to. Whether it is the case that gossip with our closest companions is accurate is debatable, but the goal of this video is to explain how gossiping constitutes the essence of human social relationships, and by extension, society. Without gossip, the existence of society, as we know it, would be improbable. Gossip is the foundation that enables human society as we know it to thrive. To argue the validity of this statement, let's go back in time to the early stages of evolution, where our primate ancestors lived. Language developed as a way to connect with larger groups, enabling us to share information about our social networks. In this scenario, dealing with free riders, those who enjoy social benefits without contributing, became a significant challenge. Gossip, in this context, emerged as a potent tool for keeping these individuals in check. Humans are part of the primate order, a diverse group of ancient mammals. Specifically, we belong to Old World monkeys and apes. Like these primates, we exhibit advanced social cognition compared to other mammals and birds. The social ability involves unique human traits like theory of mind or an advanced form of the intentional stance, both related to understanding the beliefs and intentions behind behavior. This ability to interpret behavior in terms of others' mental states is a basic form of mind reading, where individuals can consider the thoughts and intentions of others, even in complex scenarios. Whether other monkeys and apes share these specific capacities doesn't really matter. The key point is that social relationships among Old World monkeys and apes appear to be supported by sophisticated forms of social cognition, culminating in the complex hierarchical structure observed in humans. But the focus is on understanding why the ability to exchange information evolved in humans. Anthropoid primate societies, particularly those of the Old World monkeys, exhibit a notable intensity of social interactions, not as prominently seen in other species. This heightened sociality relies on two crucial factors. First, there's an ability to grasp some aspect of another individual's mental process. This doesn't imply that monkeys and apes understand minds in the way humans do. Instead, it means they excel at ethological skills, interpreting behavior and recognizing consistent patterns that can differ widely among individuals, allowing them to manipulate others' behavior for personal advantage. The second point involves the reliance on trust, and to a lesser extent, obligation to ensure the effectiveness of relationships. In the context of monkeys and apes, the size of the group is significantly influenced by the presence of predators. Species with ecological characteristics that expose them to higher predator risks require larger group sizes for the protection of their members. While protection against predators is undoubtedly advantageous, it is the case that sociality comes with both benefits and costs. Living together exposes animals to various stresses, such as disruptions to feeding when one animal displaces another, harassment by somebody who's more dominant, or the general disruptions that arise from the need to coordinate behavior within a social group. These challenges stem from the fact that animals in social groups must align their behavior, which may not be always optimal for each individual. Given the severe consequences of predation, the cost of sociality must be managed to minimize their impact. Otherwise, the selfish demands of individuals could lead to the rapid breakdown of the group. Meaning sociality requires individuals to compromise on personal short-term gains for long-term benefits, mainly by reducing the risk of falling victim to predators. The primate solution to the challenge of balancing short-term interests against the long-term benefits of the group involves the formation of alliances, often deeply rooted in relationships like that of mothers with daughters or sisters. These relationships, crucial in the life history of animals, are built on trust and commitment. An alliance member can be relied upon for support in critical moments, fostering a sense of obligation through social grooming. Although the exact mechanisms of how grooming achieves this are not fully understood, it is known to be highly effective at releasing endorphins, generating a sense of bonding. The flood of opioids triggered by grooming creates a state of relaxation, lowering heart rate, reducing signs of nervousness, and sometimes even causing the individual being groomed to fall asleep. We are also familiar with these effects in our own experiences, as we often prefer traditional forms of primate grooming in our intimate relationships. In situations where language feels insufficient for conveying deeper inner feelings, we turn to physical contact forms of communication such as hugging or petting. These actions are remarkably effective at triggering the release of endorphins. As these endorphins flood the body, we feel a growing sense of warmth, a peaceful connection with the world, and a sense of well-being towards those with whom we share such intimate experiences. The impact is immediate and direct. The physical stimulation of touch communicates more about the inner feelings of the groomer than words ever could. The extent of grooming among primates is directly linked to the size of the groups they inhabit. This correlation exists because the effectiveness of an alliance is directly influenced by the time its members spend grooming. Although within a species, the size of alliances doesn't vary significantly with group size, the effectiveness of the alliance correlates with the group size. As group size increases, individuals face greater ecological competition and reproductive stress, so more effective alliances need to be made in order to mitigate these pressures. But there's a practical limit on the time available for grooming, with an approximate upper limit of around 20% of the total waking time in a day. Despite being a good investment, there is a constraint on the amount of time primates can dedicate to grooming due to the need for foraging and other activities. Furthermore, this 20% of grooming time corresponds to an effective group size of approximately 80 animals. For modern humans, the challenge arises because our natural group size is around 150 individuals, which is roughly equivalent to the number of individuals one knows personally. At some point in our evolutionary history, humans encountered constraints on group size. To surpass the limit of about 80 individuals, they needed to discover an alternative bonding mechanism that utilized available social time more efficiently. Language was a good alternative, enabling an increase in the size of interaction groups. Unlike grooming, which is primarily a one-on-one activity, conversational group sizes typically involve up to 4 individuals, consisting of 1 speaker and 3 listeners. Moreover, speaking is an activity we can engage in simultaneously with various other tasks, allowing for more effective time sharing to maximize our use of the limited available time in a day. Interestingly, data from a diverse set of cultures worldwide show that on average, humans spend about 20% of their time in social interactions, mainly through conversation. This indicates that our allocation of social time is at the upper limit observed in primates, but our efficiency in utilizing this time is enhanced by the capabilities of language. It's worth noting that both of these benefits can be achieved with speech. Explicit content is not necessary, as the primary goal is to convey a message of social commitment. I consider it more important standing here talking to you than being over there with somebody else. But another crucial aspect of language plays a particularly significant role in bonding our unusually large social groups: the ability to exchange information. This is the fundamental purpose of language. In the context of social bonding, language enables us not only to maintain awareness of activities within our social networks, but also to actively support and nurture those relationships. It is the former point here that holds special significance. Without language, monkeys and apes, much like us without first-hand knowledge, are restricted in their understanding of their social networks, limited to only what they can see and observe. Language grants us the ability to uncover events that may have occurred without our knowledge. And along with that, we can share information with our friends and relatives when we believe it could be beneficial for them. So primate sociality involves a dual process, a cognitively demanding aspect requiring increased brain size to manage larger social networks, and an ancient process utilizing grooming-based mechanisms for effective bonding. The evolutionary sequence involves the need to exploit more predator-rich habitats, leading to an increase in group size. To achieve this, the evolution of a larger neocortex for managing social relationships and increased time investment in bonding processes is necessary. Humans with their open terrestrial habitats and heightened predation risk represent the extreme of this sequence within primates. Language became crucial in human evolution when the required group size surpassed the limits of bonding through social grooming alone. The time constraints of grooming, imposed by foraging demands, were overcome by language, enabling effective interaction with multiple individuals and the exchange of information about the social network. But how does this relate to gossip? Language serves various functions beyond social updates. It enables us to seek advice or discuss hypothetical scenarios, advertise our qualities as potential mates or allies, and engage in deception by conveying information to strategically influence others. The diverse group of language, such as seeking advice, are all fundamentally rooted in the evolutionary purpose of language, facilitating the bonding of large social groups. Without the ability to exchange information about the social network, large groups wouldn't be sustainable as cohesive social entities, and the additional functions of language would lack relevance or significance. but we have to question the evidence supporting the various ways in which language is used. While language fundamentally involves the exchange of information, traditionally, linguists and scholars from various disciplines have assumed that the information exchanged is factual knowledge about the world, meaning the belief is that language evolved to enable our ancestors to share information about the physical world, such as crafting tools, hunting strategies, or identifying potential dangers like crocodiles. Obviously, our ability to perform remarkable technical feats is tied to the existence of language. Without language, figures like Newton could not have explained gravity, and their ideas would have likely failed to capture the interest of others. Language serves as the bridge that allows us to understand and build upon the insights of those who came before us. It enables us to stand on the shoulders of giants. It is language, and nothing else, that has facilitated the expansion of knowledge witnessed in the past few centuries. The function of language since then has heavily influenced our perception of its purpose. This viewpoint tends to dismiss alternative uses of language, such as gossip, as a trivial byproduct. Gossip, for a long time, has suffered from a negative reputation, often considered a wasteful activity when compared to discussions about more useful topics like technology. And the question here is whether language evolved primarily for the exchange of technological information, with gossip as a secondary byproduct, or if its evolution was driven by the need to facilitate the exchange of social information, with the exchange of technological details being a beneficial consequence. Well, let's start by thinking about how we genuinely employ language and what our actual conversation topics are usually about. Through a series of observational studies conducted in public spaces, Dunbar conducted a study where he systematically recorded the subjects discussed in spontaneous conversations at 30-second intervals. The categories included politics, sports, music, social things, culture, and technology. The social category encompasses discussions related to explicit social activities, personal relationships, and individual preferences. Their research, gathered from their own experiments and various studies conducted in different locations, consistently indicate that social topics, broadly defined as gossip, constituted about 65% of speaking time. In contrast, all other topics combined make up only about 1/3 of conversation time, meaning the results suggest that natural conversations are predominantly focused on social topics, or in other words, gossip. By the same token, another study analyzing conversation content in a non-European population found that 78% of topics in 1,754 recorded conversations revolved around social issues. Although this study did not employ a set time interval for sampling topics, it provides additional support for the prominence of gossip in conversations. So if language is primarily employed for the social exchanges in everyday life, the natural follow-up question is how language contributes to creating social relationships within groups. There are at least 4 ways in which language might play a role in this context: keeping track of other individuals in the network, advertising one's own advantages as a friend or mate, seeking advice on personal problems, or stopping free riders or psychopaths. To understand the emphasis on these 4 functions, Dunbar conducted a more detailed analysis of social topics in 30 freely formed conversations. Surprisingly, his results show that the majority of social conversation time in his sample was dedicated to the first 2 topics, with roughly equal distribution. Getting advice and stopping free riders each constituted only about 5% of the total social conversation time. Now, at face value, this is kind of shocking, because if gossip really is the social fabric of society, we would expect it to take up a much larger share of conversation than just roughly 5%. But Dunbar thought that the rarity of conversations about stopping free riders might be attributed to the circumstances under which the study was conducted, open public environments like cafes and bars. It is possible that people are hesitant to discuss more intimate topics in public where they might be overheard, and such conversations would be reserved for more private venues only. The need to discuss such topics may be rare, but when they do occur, they may be more significant in the lives of individuals, because the consequences of being exploited by a psychopath can be very damaging. But that is a perfect segue into our next point, the Freerider Problem. One reason why gossip is viewed negatively is that conversation is occasionally employed to pass judgment on the actions or characters of others. This is probably rooted in the fact that free riders can be highly detrimental to societies founded on trust. It was previously thought that the primary evolutionary advancement of primates lies in their capacity to employ social solutions for the everyday challenges of survival. These solutions rely on an underlying social contract, where each individual agrees to sacrifice some immediate interests to achieve long-term benefits through collaborative approaches to ecological problems. But such social arrangements are highly vulnerable to free riders, individuals who reap the benefits of sociality while avoiding the full costs. Mathematical modeling of virtual societies based on these social contracts indicates that free riders become more problematic as social group sizes increase, or society becomes more dispersed. This is because, under these conditions, free riders benefit from having a larger number of naive individuals unaware of their behavior who they can exploit by interacting in an open and trusting manner. The primary challenge for highly social species is the impracticality of treating everyone encountered with the level of suspicion and caution needed to prevent exploitation. Such an approach would consume excessive time and resources and hinder the pursuit of genuinely beneficial social opportunities. Ultimately, it could lead to the breakdown of social societies, as individuals would be unwilling to cooperate. For sociality to deliver its intended benefits, individuals must be willing to take risks and trust the sincerity of others' actions. But this inherent trust becomes a vulnerability that free riders or psychopaths can exploit. Despite our general trust in others, free riding remains a significant social issue. To counteract this, we employ various low-level defenses on a daily basis. We analyze each other's faces and expressions for signs of honesty or dishonesty. We exercise caution with strangers before entrusting them with more significant aspects of our lives. And when seeking substantial favors, we may offer gifts up front to demonstrate our sincerity. Nettle and Dunbar in 1997 utilized a modeling approach to demonstrate that language can serve as an effective mechanism for controlling free riders, particularly when they evolve rapidly from one generation to the next. With one observation being, free riders who exploit social situations without contributing proportionally are not always strangers arriving from afar. They can just as easily be members of our own community. Some individuals consistently navigate relationships with great caution, avoiding excessive openness. Others may opportunistically exploit situations to their advantage, especially when circumstances change. The risk is ever present from individuals naturally inclined to withhold information or seize opportunities to exploit friends and acquaintances when advantageous. Our attitudes towards the people closest in our lives can sometimes be more exploitative than we realize. We may take them for granted and invest more social effort in acquaintances or less frequently seen individuals. As an example, people often greet distant acquaintances more warmly than those they see regularly, even though the latter are likely more important in terms of support. While this behavior may partly serve to convey a non-threatening attitude toward less familiar individuals, it also suggests a greater willingness to rely on the goodwill of those with whom we have well-established relationships with. The control of free riders relies heavily on memory of instances where they have cheated or failed to uphold social contracts, and an understanding of how free riders might harm others, which involves cognitive abilities like theory of mind, is crucial. Inquist and Lamar, in 1993, employed an evolutionary analysis based on the prisoner's dilemma to model a situation where individuals collaborate to maximize genetic fitness for reproduction. In this analysis, they identified the evolutionary stable strategy, the one that cannot be outcompeted by any other strategy, that would optimize fitness of individuals in a community. Their model demonstrated that free riders, individuals who accept resource donations through collaboration but fail to reciprocate, would inevitably out-reproduce honest collaborators under various realistic scenarios. But if community members could share information about their behavior and the behavior of individual free riders, the success of free riders would significantly be restricted, allowing honest reciprocators to maintain a dominant presence in the population. Inquist and Lamar explicitly referred to this process of information exchange as gossip. The studies from earlier on conversation topics revealed that gossip involving criticism or negative comments about individuals was relatively rare, but it suggested that even though these cases are infrequent, their consequences for the recipient's ability to avoid exploitation in the future might be disproportionately important. In experiments conducted by Ostrom and colleagues, participants were invited to make financial investments in two markets. The markets were structured so that one yielded a constant return, while the other yielded results that were an exponential function of the number of investors. The optimal payout was achieved only if everyone invested in the second market, but if not everyone followed this collaborative strategy, the payout was poor. Despite the clear visibility of everyone's bids, the experiments resulted in a mean payout of only around 20% of what it could have been achieved if everybody collaborated. This highlights the challenge of overcoming the temptation for individuals to act in their immediate self-interest rather than act collaboratively. The experiment conducted by Ostrom suggests that even the opportunity to comment on the behavior of free riders could have a significant impact on their willingness to break social contracts. These findings confirm that individuals are sensitive to others' opinions of them, and other members of society can exploit this sensitivity to encourage cooperation and adherence to social norms, which, by the way, is one of the theorized reasons why we care so much what people think, an idea as a society we've slowly been told to move away from. While this strategy may not be effective for everyone, it seems to work sufficiently enough to limit the number of individuals attempting to exploit loopholes in the trust between others in a community. So what does this all mean? Well, when it comes to gossip, theory of mind becomes relevant in several ways. Gossip often involves discussing the thoughts, feelings, and intentions of others. Individuals engage in gossip to share information about social events, assess the reputations of others, and navigate the complexities of relationships. The ability to attribute mental states to others and predict behavior contributes to the effectiveness of gossip as a social tool. Along with this, gossip serves as a mechanism for sharing and updating information about the social environment. Through gossip, individuals can learn from the experiences of others, gather insights into social dynamics, and adjust their behavior accordingly. This social learning aspect is enhanced by the cognitive capacity for theory of mind, allowing individuals to engage in sophisticated discussions about relationships and group dynamics. The ability to recognize and understand the perspective of others, facilitated by theory of mind, plays a dual role in the context of free riders and gossip. Firstly, it allows individuals to empathize with others who may be at risk of exploitation by a free rider. By comprehending the cognitive and emotional states of these individuals, one can appreciate the potential harm they might face. This empathetic understanding is crucial for cooperation and altruistic behaviors within a social group, extending their concern beyond immediate self-interest, actively engaging in social monitoring and protective behaviors to safeguard others from exploitation. But on the flip side, free riders possessing theory of mind use it for strategic advantage as well. Understanding the mental states and, more importantly, the vulnerabilities of others allows free riders and psychopaths to identify individuals who may be more susceptible to being exploited by them. This cognitive insight enables free riders to navigate social networks more effectively. The ability to put themselves in other people's shoes enhances their manipulative capabilities. In the interplay between theory of mind, psychopaths, and gossip, individuals with advanced cognitive abilities not only protect themselves and others from potential exploitation, but also enable free riders to exploit the vulnerabilities of those who lack such cognitive insights. The dynamics of gossip, in this context, serve as a means of sharing information about psychopaths and influencing the social perceptions of other people within a community. Social cognition, particularly the ability to attribute mental states to others, plays a crucial role in the complex nature of language use, especially in the context of metaphor and indirect communication. In conversations, individuals have the capacity to use language both literally and metaphorically. Metaphorical language allows for indirect expression, often hidden with layers of meaning that may not be immediately present. This linguistic richness and the use of metaphors contribute to the telegraphic style of human conversation. The choice to speak indirectly is not merely about economy of words, but reflects a deliberate attempt to convey information in a less, let's say, explicit manner. This indirectness places demands on both the speaker and the listener. The speaker must craft messages that carry nuanced meanings, and the listener must engage in mental effort to decipher these meanings. This aspect of language use is intricately tied to social dynamics, as individuals may choose to obscure their true intentions or opinions, especially when discussing specific members of society. The use of metaphorical language allows for a form of communication that is targeted and selective, intended to be understood only by those individuals who possess the knowledge or shared experiences necessary to be able to interpret it. So, the intertwining of social cognition and language enables individuals to navigate the complexities of social interactions, providing a means to communicate and share information selectively within a social community. So in essence, gossip seems to be an evolved mechanism to prevent psychopaths from taking advantage of the larger community, with higher intellectual ideas just being a secondary byproduct. The ability to engage in discussions of these issues is considered crucial for sustaining the complex societies that we as humans have developed. The evolution of language, driven by the need for social bonding, has enabled the emergence of other social functions, including the exchange of information about psychopaths, a role that has gained importance in the large dispersed societies of modern humans. This development is portrayed as a natural outgrowth of the human social brain, capitalizing on the innate curiosity and interest humans have in the affairs of others. While the potential for gossip to be taken to an extreme is definitely something we should be aware of, the central point is this: gossip, in its broadest sense, is the foundational element that has allowed human societies to thrive and function.